Well, thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Just a little fun, casual TV conversation. Sure. Gabriel, start with you and we'll work our way down. Just starting really easy. The best parts of working in TV.
Best parts of working in television. I think, I think the writing is just great right now. I speak for myself. I've got a terrific showrunner, and his staff is amazing. Aaron Korsh has just been writing some great episodes. They're very witty, and they start off light in some ways, and then every moment just gets deeper and deeper. And I think, it's been really special this year as far as our show in season 1 was way more, closed shut cases. Mm-hmm. And it began sort of as a procedural, law show, but it's really turned into, a narrative where each episode links to the next. And it just allows for us to have more freedom and to, get deeper inside of these characters. So I'm really enjoying that. And, I've been working in film for 15 years, and I just found that it's nice to know that you've got a job coming and a steady gig and just a character that you can grow from week to week.
Yeah. Madeline?
It's a really interesting process, because film, as you know, the studios are producing fewer feature films every single year. I think when I came up, there was something like 32 on the slate per studio, somewhere in that ballpark. I think there are maybe 9. Yeah. 8 or 9. And the material there has changed very much. And the indie world kind of took off a lot, but that's also been very marginalized, and, films come together and fall apart. So there's a measure, in a sense, of security, I think, that's appealing to people. But more than that, there's good and bad. You have to go at a tremendous clip, which is a little bit difficult for me because I came up another way. But at the same time, with the unpredictability of not knowing what's coming, when something surprising happens, there's great pleasure in that. Right. So it's a constant, it's sort of the dynamic tension, of my life, just, okay, what's happening? Where am I at? Where am I going? But the writers really don't have those answers yet. Right. And then they have to kind of organically find the process.
And for you, Jason?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a great time for TV right now. I think that, shows like Lost and things like that, they really sort of opened it up to giving people, kind of living up to the sizes of people's TVs. I think now people have these, they make these big shows that are very cinematic, and you can fall in love with characters on TV in ways that you can't do in films because you don't know them well enough. Right. But you see these people from week to week, and some of my favorite shows that are off the air now, I miss those characters. I wonder what they're doing. Yeah. And so it's attracted all of these really incredible actors and writers and directors, and it's exciting. And there's also something, TV is the only the only sort of medium where as we go along in our lives, we have no idea what's coming next, and that's only mimicked in television. You kind of know the entire story you're telling in a film or in a play, and this, you're sort of, you can get blindsided, and that makes it exciting, and you're sort of living along with it and creating a family.
It must be exciting when you guys get the script for the next week's episode, just kind of see where my character's going, what's going to happen. Talk about that, just that kind of that first read of the script for the next episode.
It can be very exciting, and it can also be where you're just wanting to, jump off a bridge. Yeah. But the lovely thing is, actually in Revenge, I have a relationship that's good enough with Mike Kelly, where if something doesn't feel emotionally truthful, because he has to service so many characters, and there's so much going on, and it's this thing of just cranking them out one week after another, that we're actually working on an episode right now, and I said, this isn't tracking for me, and this is why, and what can we do, and how can we deepen this? And he says, you're right, okay, so let's sit down. And you sit down with the writers and work it out, and we'll see in a couple days what it's going to look like. Yeah. But there's definitely that sense of an ongoing, tension isn't the right word, but you're a little bit anxiety. Right. Anxious as it goes on.
And what's actually interesting is, not so much in your shows, but in other shows, they'll kill off a lead character. Like in Game of Thrones, they'll killed off one of the lead characters in the 4th episode. I mean, 5 years ago, that was unheard of. Not that, of course, it's going to happen to you guys, but especially on pay cable, that happens all the time.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it brings a surprise that didn't happen in television many years ago. You guys, Jason and Gabriel, with your showrunners, with Aaron and with Jason Katims, do you feel like you can talk to them about your character and kind of where he's going in an episode, or more of a kind of an arc?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting for me. I've been working on Parenthood for 4 years, but never as a cast member. It's always recurring. So I do have that sense of every time I get a script, I go, oh, I hope she doesn't break up with me. But yeah, no. I mean, one of the great things about working on that show is that I've never worked in a situation, maybe on some of the independent films that I've had, but definitely not in something that has this much money involved, where it feels like they trust and respect their actors so much that our opinions not only are valid but almost encouraged. We read through a scene and if something doesn't really work, if a transition doesn't work, they say, well, what do you think they would say? And we all work it out as a team, and there's a real collaboration there, and so that's nice. So yeah, that's really one of the nice things about working on a Jason Katims show, is that he loves people and he loves actors, and it comes across, because we're not like.
Do you guys like to have writers on set in case you have any questions or anything?
Yeah, on our show. I think the process is similar on other shows. I mean, this is my first sort of TV thing in many years, where the staff writer writes the episode, or they all break the story, the staff writer writes the episode, and then the showrunner comes in and rewrites the episode. Is that sort of how it works?
Yeah.
On every show? Right. So, our staff writer is there while we're shooting. And so he's sort of our Aaron, our go-to. And it's collaborative in many ways on our show, and it's honestly, it's not in some ways. It's like the question is, hey, you know what? I don't really get that line, or it doesn't really come out of my mouth just as well as it could be. Can I say this? And it's always like, give us one, and we'll give you one.
And which one do they use?
And they always use the one that they wrote, because they're writing. So, that's just how it is.
They make you feel included, though.
Yeah, but they do make us feel included. And, Aaron will say, some of the best moments have been when you guys improvise. And we've used it. We have. So, there you go.
Madeline, you mentioned before about the grind. I mean, obviously TV is a great medium, but it's also a very quick medium. You're putting out 13 versus cable, or 22 for broadcast. Does that get to you guys? I mean, 8-day shoots or 7-day shoots, depending on a drama, and just scene after scene. Is that tough for you as actors?
There is a toughness to that, but I think more importantly, I think the network TV model is going to have to change. This is just my opinion. I think that between 13 and 15 episodes a year is optimum. Optimum? That's right. Yeah, right. And I think that going 22 is too much, unless, of course, you're a half-hour comedy, and I think that there are people that can kind of crank that out. I think that it ends up hurting the storylines. I think you can develop stronger arcs in a shorter period of time, and quite frankly, cable has now kind of started to take over. So I think the three networks are really going to have to reevaluate how they're doing business right now. And I think 13 is a really great number. It's terrific. And also, I want to answer something. You said you talked about being worried about being killed off. I have to tell you a funny story.
Sure.
At the end of the season of Revenge, Mike wanted this cliffhanger where it appears that Victoria might have been, the character I play, might have been blown up in a plane. And all he wanted to do was show my car driving to the tarmac, but not getting out. And I said, but Mike, you've got to see that walk to the plane. And his writers also believed in that. And he said, but how do I get you out of it? What happens? What happens? I said, no, it's the strongest choice. And whether I live or die is immaterial. But make the strong dramatic choice as you're going along. And he was, he went with that because that's what he's about. And he actually thought I was trying to do it to get off the show, which is ridiculous. I mean, I have great affection for the show, and I'm so happy to be here. But if they were to kill me off tomorrow, as long as it's strong and dramatic, I'm really happy, because that's what you want. You want that natural arc.
Yeah. And for on the cable side, being the shorter amount of episodes, does that seem to work for you? And where you operate?
Yeah, I think USA has a little bit of a different model in that we do 16 episodes.
That's
Our
good.
first year was 13, which was great. It was fantastic. I like working for 3.5 months out of the year. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not really. But so what we do is we do 10 as the first sort of like in the summer season, and then they pick up another 6 episodes for January through whatever March, so that viewers come back halfway and they don't have to take a full year to come back to the show. I think that's a pretty good model. I still think 13 is a really good number for not watering down the material in some ways. It's hard, you know. The writers have a tough time writing 16 episodes or 22 episodes. It's a lot of work.
I think if you talk to a writer, look at the overall arc of a season, they'll say 22, well, you know, I can't even look at number 14 anymore because I didn't like it, or number 7 was just kind of a filler between 6 and 8.
Right.
But for writers, it's got to be really, really tough.
Well, the other thing too is, I mean, audiences are becoming very sophisticated in terms of aesthetics and the visuals, and you know they have so much that they can go. They can go to YouTube to look at things. I mean, there are all kinds of very interesting formats right now, and the more cinematic that you can make a show, the better the show will be. And 13 lends itself to that.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, talking about the difference between independent film and TV. In TV, I mean, you're in somebody's bedroom or living room, you know, every day, you know, every week, and they become very familiar to, you know, Gabriel's my, you know, somebody in Nebraska said Gabriel's my friend. I know him, or I see you on Revenge. Did that kind of dealing with the public, has that been kind of hard to adjust to? I'd imagine for Revenge last year, it must have been crazy. And, you know, Suits does so well. Is that kind of a weird dealing with the public a little bit?
Yeah, it is. It's all sort of very brand new for me in many ways. People are calling me Harvey on the street. Hey, Harvey! Hey! And there are times where I just like, just keep on walking, just just you know, pretend you didn't hear him. And then there are times, of course, hey, how's it going? What's up? You know, and you know, with cell phones now, everyone wants to have a picture,
Right.
and so it's really interesting to how you navigate that.
Yeah, you don't want to offend them, but you want to be.
Offend, but it's also your private time. Or,
Sure,
you know,
sure.
so it can get tricky out there.
Actually, that's the one thing that really bothers me, because when I came up, there were no, you know, you didn't have the cell phone cameras and stuff, and people feel entitled to take those photographs at very strange moments. I mean, of course, there's this great article now that was in San Francisco Gate where there are private drones now surveilling the entire country. So you could, if you have $1 million, you can buy a drone and start watching people. I mean,
Right.
it's a very weird world.
I actually have one.
Where do you hide them?
There's one under this table.
There we go.
Getting back kind of to the busy schedule, because it's these 7 or 8 day shoots, probably not much time for rehearsal. As actors, do you miss that rehearsal time, or do you just understand this is the way it's going to go and I have to just go with the flow? What do you think, Jason?
We actually do spend quite a lot of time on rehearsal. Yeah, I mean, you know, the way Parenthood shoots is really interesting. They always have 3, at least 2, but usually 3 cameras going at all times. So if there's an improvisation that happens, they've captured it, they've covered it from both sides, so they can. You know, it's not like, oh, remember that one moment that was really great? Can you do it when we flip to the other side? And it won't be as spontaneous, but we're trying to capture it. It's all there. So because shooting is so fast, they basically do that a couple times, and then they come in, and then the scene is done. They can really focus a lot on the acting. And you know, sometimes it's very fast, and you just have to sort of run-throughs, and you have to go for it. But if there's a problem with it, we'll sit and work it out until we're all on the same page, which is a real luxury. Because usually, in TV, there's
It's a real luxury.
Yeah. It's just, you know, you don't get that. But I think Parenthood, in a lot of ways, is sort of reaped the benefits of just taking that extra 5 minutes with their actors, and you know, and treating us with, you know, like respect, and that we have something to offer, instead of like, oh my God, the actor asked a question again, it's so annoying. Just say it because you have to say it. You know,
Right.
they'll talk to us about it, which is really lovely.
You guys, so you're nodding your head. You have a tough time finding time for rehearsal?
We have a very different experience, actually. Jason Katims did Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was a phenomenon in terms of how loose everything was, and then they had short days and the kind being able to improvise. We don't improvise. We have, as you know, in our show, very structured, stylized dialogue, which is extremely difficult, and we don't have rehearsal other than to mark the spots, kind of run the line, and that's it. We're thrown in front of, shot out of the cannon. That's really hard for me, really, really hard. But my coworkers handle it much better than I do, because they grew up in television and I grew up in another way, where there was that kind of exploration that you get to have.
You think those with more theater experience would have a harder time kind of adjusting to the TV kind of pace?
I do, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm more of your world where I come from the theater and rehearsal was just a dream, So when you come into television, we're marking and then we get into it. The good thing about our show is that they do allow a lot of takes, so I find that we're rehearsing during the takes. And I just trust that we're not going to move on until we get it right, and we all feel that we can move on. The bad thing about that is we pull 15, 17-hour days, and we're only doing 7-day shoots. So, I mean, I honestly think we need 8 days. Our show is also very stylized. It's heightened in its lyricism. So it's it's all so procedural law speak. So you got to be on top of that and make it look like you know exactly what you're talking about. Where 90% of the time we have no idea what we're talking about.
Do you guys find any difficulty working with it on a film? Obviously, you're working with one director. On a TV show for 22 episodes, you could have. I mean, there's always usually a house director that does most of them, but you're dealing with different directors. Is that a problem for you guys? Kind of having that different person behind the camera and looking at the monitor every week? Is it harder to do that?
It's very interesting. Last year, we had, for the second half of A Revenge, a remarkably talented director-showrunner named Sanford Bookstaver, who really kind of coalesced the look of the show and encouraged the other directors who were coming in. He directed a number of episodes himself, and they were including the finale. And he's wonderful and was able to keep on time and on schedule, but also have strong vision. And we don't have that person this year, and I miss it a lot, because every director comes in wondering what it is that the producers want. But writers and directors have two different skill sets generally, and they think differently. It's just a brain wiring. And directors are visually oriented, and some writers are, but most are not necessarily. They kind of know what they would like, but they don't know how to express it. They don't have that vocabulary. And it's really important to have that, to have that consistent visual point of view. I think. I miss it a lot. That was long-winded, but...
No, it was good. It was good. I would imagine it'd be hard for a new director to come in a show where the template's already set and the way it looks is already set, and you have your own vision of what you want to do, but you really can't do that because you don't want to move out of the format too much. Have you experienced that from directors saying we should try that, but maybe they want to you still need to keep in that certain box?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I mean, I remember, I think it sometimes gets easier as the seasons go on. I think that they find the directors that they like and that get the whole vibe of the show, and then they stick with those. And in Parenthood right now, Peter Krause has directed a couple, and Dax Shepard has directed one. So the actors they know what the tone of the show is and everything. But it's interesting because I remember growing up and doing plays or doing like a movie. The director was the voice of God. I mean, that's who you listen to. And then I remember doing an episode of Law and Order, like when I was first starting out, like a guest star, and the director came up and was like, so can you just do this? And the actor was like, I'm not gonna do that. And I was like, whoa, because they've been doing it for 11 years, and this guy was new, and it was such a different thing to have the director be like, hi, I'm the new guy here. Yeah. I'm supposed to be the boss. So it can be a sort of it's a strange dynamic, but I think it slowly, the ones who fit the thing of the show, they get to continue doing more episodes, and as you get more comfortable with the characters. But it is interesting to have someone come in, and you've been with this character for 4 years.
Right, you know it better than the director's going to know him.
So
I have to say, I can't emphasize enough the importance of a terrific director-showrunner. especially with a show that should have a more filmic sensibility. It's crucial because as wonderful as the guest directors can be, you need somebody who's actually, directors are competitive by nature, and you need people who will push and push and push and push the visual boundaries, and it brings out the best in everyone. And you want that as an actor. You want those directors who push you hard. So I think that a lot of studios are loath to have that position. The executives don't fully understand the necessity of it, and it's very, very important.
Yeah. Obviously as actors, you're artists, but you also have the business side of you, and in TV, you have to look at the ratings, see how the show did that day. Is that something you're consciously looking at those numbers, or do you try to kind of distance yourself and say, I can't do anything about it, I'm not going to worry, pay attention?
I try not to look at it because I can't do anything about it. One of my cast members is always like, I just seen the numbers last night. And it's always like, yeah, well, okay, how do we do? What do we do? And
right.
I'm pleasantly surprised when I see our numbers doing so well.
Yeah,
it's
you guys
great.
do well.
Yeah, and then you become proud of it, and then start focusing on that, and you're like, what am I focusing on that for? I can't do anything about it, so just let it go.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, Madeline? Because your show's obviously done well.
The show's done well. It's very interesting, though, because we're living in a world of social networking, which I don't do. But I will admit to being a voyeur and watching some of the Twitter feeds every once in a while. And they say very smart things. And sometimes they actually have incredible plot ideas, or where they think something is going, and that's sort of fantastic. And sometimes the writers pay attention to it. But most importantly, you have to know if your characters and if the story's landing emotionally. Because if it's not landing emotionally, they're going to start disappearing. So it's really more about, it's kind of in a sense the way that they used to have a testing process, what works, but without micromanaging. And the audience will let you know when you're off track.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to throw back to that question about why television is really great. Mm-hmm. The key, I think, is the social media, that now there's so many opportunities for fans and viewers to actually create as well. They get into these characters. The fan fiction that's out there, it's amazing what people are writing. And, cutting little, YouTube videos. You can't do that with just a movie. It's just like a finite thing, unless it's a big franchise or whatever. But with every week, you get new images and new storylines, and people are creating their own stuff out there. So I think that's another reason why television is...
You are watching.
I watch some of it. I watch some of it because I think it's hilarious, and I think it's pretty creative. But I'm not obsessed with it.
Well, you mentioned social media. I think, did you just start your own Twitter feed?
Yeah.
I saw you. I think you start one up.
Yeah.
Is that a world that you want to dive into with Twitter and like dealing with all the Parenthood fans and seeing what they think and putting yourself out there?
It's fun. I like to do that. I mean, every once in a while, people are cruel. Not a lot of big fans of my inability to grow a full beard out there. It feels like back in high school. I'm like, shut up, quit it. It's interesting. I like Twitter. I like. I just make little jokes on there, and it's just fun. It's sort of an immediate connection to everybody, and it's just interesting. And like you said, they're so creative, and some people come up with just great ideas, and they cut together fun videos, and it's really nice.
Yeah, I mean,
really
Twitter's
nice
really
see.
changed. I mean, showrunners now are on Twitter dealing with the fans when a show's being aired, and they'll kind of just going back and forth what people think.
Well, this is an interesting thing, too, an interesting topic, because I'm going to make a prediction.
Okay.
I think that you're going to see a lot of studios and networks try to compel contractually to have their talent tweet about the show. And then I'm going to start kicking balls because it ain't going to happen, and it shouldn't happen. And to me, it's an incredible invasion of privacy. That should be something that's done of your own volition.
Right.
But if they're using that to say that you must promote a show, then that's really crossing boundaries.
It's a great question.
No, this is
level.
Yeah.
It is, and I have a sense that this is going to start to happen, and I know of a couple people who are heavy into it, who are actually invested in Twitter, who believe that this should happen. And I think this is something Screen Actors Guild and everybody should be very vigilant about, because no one should be forced to have to essentially promote something on that level where you're exposing your life that way.
Have you heard that actually people are being pressed to do that more?
I have actually heard on a particular set of a show that's no longer in existence, where there was a lot of pressure from a showrunner to do that, and people feel compelled to that because other directors and other talent, because they want to maintain their jobs. It's not they're not legally forced to, but there's that kind of social pressure, and that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like a double-edged sword, because there's so many TV people out there, and they'll tweet something that the PR people said, "Oh my God, don't say someone's a guest star," or "We got canceled," or "We got a back 9 order." So while they want that talent and feasibly out there, but they don't want them to say anything that actually might break news. So
No.
it's kind of a weird dilemma.
We're here. We support the shows. We do the press. That's asked of us, because we're very happy to be here.
Right.
But that's a whole other level.
Right. A couple things just before we wrap it up. I know you guys are working all the time, but obviously you're fans of TV. What shows, you had mentioned Lost before, what kind of shows do you like to watch when you have the time to do it?
Go for it, guys.
I actually watch his show. I don't watch it. I have a 5-year-old, so I'm not watching much television
Right.
at all. But
Except for Nickelodeon.
Except for no, I don't even watch Nickelodeon. But the episodes that I have caught of Parenthood are okay. I'm gonna sound totally crazy right now, but I totally cry at every single episode. It just it's I guess being a young parent and having big family and dealing with the dynamics of all of that and seeing the drama that exists within my own family, I think it's just really, really articulate and well done, and just so honest. I think they're just doing such honest work that it's moving to me. It's great.
Yeah, it's a great show. Madeline, what are you watching yet?
I have to confess that I'm not watching a lot right now, just because the schedule is so crazy. But what I adored Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
I felt it was such a unique show, and I'm not a sucker for things, but I felt like I was being ripped open right here, but in a way that was satisfying. You watch people trying to do the right thing and struggling, and it was beautifully shot and scored and performed and all of that, and I love
Connie and
Modern
Kyle,
Family.
Connie and Kyle as a couple on that
Yeah,
show were phenomenal.
fantastic. But also the kid who played Matt
Saracen?
Saracen.
Kyle, Zach Gilford.
It's just fantastic,
Yeah.
really, really beautiful television.
It was.
And I was so sorry it ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason, what about you?
I just started to catch up on Homeland,
Yeah,
the first season of Homeland,
great.
which I just think is so exciting and so well acted and written, and so that's the one that I'm sort of obsessed with right now, and that's kind of the way I do it, and I think another way that the TV world is going to have to change is that there's a lot of people like me, and with Lost too, I didn't actually watch the first 3 seasons. I caught up. I went on a DVD,
Yeah.
the Netflix binge.
Yeah, people binge view now. That's what they do.
And then you could not have kept me away from sitting there, every week after that for the last couple seasons. And so, I think that, sometimes I feel like they cancel a show too early, or, that people aren't watching it, and they don't realize that some people are just going to catch up during the summer, and let's see what happens at the beginning of next season.
Right.
But yeah, but Homeland is my new one, and I'm glad that they kept it on the air even without my viewership.
It's a great one.